Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and smash the like button. I will be tying a Dragonfly larva. The hook is a Daiichi 2370 size 6. Create a thread base at the eye. Cut a length of Swiss straw in brown. Unravel it. Fold the Swiss straw in half, like you're rolling a cigarette. Cut a 4 to 5 millimeter strip. Using the spine side of the Swiss straw, secure it in place just behind the eye. Make sure it's centered on top of the shank. Tie down the waist. To create the compound eyes, cut a strand of 50-pound mono. Flatten the center of the strand with a pair of pliers. This makes for an easier tie-in. Using crisscross wraps, secure the mono in place just to the rear of the Swiss straw. Advance the bobbin to the rear. Cut the mono so you have 3 to 4 millimeters on each side. Hide the raffia with your thumb and burn each end with a lighter. Press each side with a wet finger. Be sure to wet your finger or you will end up with a blister. The total length of the eye stem should be about 4 millimeters. The order Odonata consists of 2 suborders, Anisoptera, the dragonflies, and Zygoptera, the damselflies. Dragonflies belonging to the suborder Anisoptera are among the most recognizable and ancient insect groups. They are predatory insects that spend a portion of their life cycle in water as larvae and emerge as agile, flying adults. To create the taper in the abdomen, I'm using an old weighted zonker body that I've had for years. You can also create the tapered body using stack lead or mono or even a zip tie. For the ribbing, I use a section of 15-pound mono. Secure it in place along the abdomen. To create the paraprocti, secure 1 brown goose biot on either side of the hook. Don't worry about the length at this point. The larvae of dragonflies are aquatic and can live for several months to several years, depending on the species and environmental conditions. The nymphs are predatory, feeding on small aquatic organisms like tadpoles, insects, and smaller aquatic invertebrates. To create the epicroct, we use another goose biot on top of the shank, and our anal pyramid is complete. For the overback on the abdomen, cut a 4 to 5 millimeter strip of thin skin. I'm using the Mottled mustard color. Cut it to a taper point and secure it in place just ahead of the paraprocti. Now to create the lighter colored ventral underbody, I'm using a UV2 Caddis Nymph dubbing in golden brown. The majority of nymphs and larvae have a darker dorsum and lighter colored belly or ventrum. Spin up a continuous dubbing noodle and spiral it forward, creating a cylindrical body that goes from narrow to wide to narrow again anteriorly. Dragonflies are typically found near freshwater habitats, such as ponds, lakes, rivers, marshes, and wetlands. These habitats are crucial for the nymphs to develop, as they require water for their growth and breathing. The nymphs breathe through gills located in their abdomen and use water propulsion to move. Some notable dragonfly families are the Actinidae, which are darners, very large dragonflies often with striking blue or green markings as adults. Their speed and agility in flight is like no other. They are one of the fastest of the insects in the insect world. Libellulidae, which are known as skimmers, includes many of the common dragonfly species with diverse colors and patterns, often found near ponds and streams. The Gomphidae, otherwise known as clubtail dragonflies, are recognizable by their unique bulbous abdomen, which gives them the clubtail appearance. Fold over the thin skin and secure it in place. Cut the excess. Spiral the monofilament forward, creating 9 or 10 segments. Secure it in place, and as you can see, we have a somewhat cylindrical abdomen. On a side note, for the underbody of the abdomen, you can also use a dubbing loop, but I prefer the control of the dubbing noodle. Flatten the abdomen with a flat nose plier. For added durability, add a dollop of superglue. Create another dubbing noodle using the same dubbing as before and advance it to the eyes. Crisscross wrap around the eyes and figure 8 wrap between the eyes, creating a flat Advance your thread rearward to just ahead of where the abdomen and thorax meet. The next step is the legs. Cut or pull away 6 barbs from a goose biot. Secure the hind legs in place on either side of the hook just ahead of where the abdomen and thorax merge. Once you're comfortable with the length, add a dollop of superglue to the thread at the junction. Cut away the excess. Create a dubbing noodle and cover the thread where the legs were secured in place. Advance the dubbing noodle forward to about the halfway point of the thorax. Repeat the process to create the middle legs. Dragonflies are ancient insects with fossils dating back over 300 million years, well before the dinosaurs. Some prehistoric species had wingspans over 2 feet as adults. The larvae of the Actinidae are fascinating creatures, characterized by their predatory nature, specialized morphology, and adaptation to their aquatic environment. They play an important ecological role as both predators and prey in freshwater ecosystems. The larvae go through multiple instars, or growth stages, molting several times before reaching maturity. The length of the larval stage can vary depending on the species and environmental factors, but it typically lasts anywhere from 1 to several years. The larvae feed heavily during this time to accumulate energy for the metamorphosis into an adult dragonfly. Add a dollop of superglue at the tie-in point of each leg. Move the thread behind the legs. Create another dubbing noodle. Make a few wraps behind the middle legs to steer them forward. Cut the excess. Wrap the dubbing noodle to behind the eyes and head. Repeat the process to create the 4 legs. The 4 legs are the shortest of the 3 sets. Create another dubbing noodle and make several turns behind the front legs to steer them forward. Make any adjustments and fill in any areas to achieve the flat, broad head that is so often found in dragonfly larvae, especially that of the family Actinidae. Add your super glue to the junction of the legs. Cut the excess. Create another dubbing noodle and advance your bobbin rearward to about 2 millimeters behind the head. Fold over your Swiss straw and secure it in place. Pull the Swiss straw forward and advance the thread to just ahead of the middle legs. Fold over the Swiss straw and secure it in place to create the first thoracic segment. Fold the Swiss straw forward and move the thread to just ahead of the hind legs. Fold the Swiss straw rearward and secure it in place, creating the second thoracic segment. The wing sheets extend to about the 7th abdominal segment, so cut the Swiss straw to about that length. Whip finish and remove the bobbin. The tying segment of this fly is now complete. Now to fine tune the details. You can stop here, but I prefer to create the additional realism. Now cut the anal pyramid to the length that you prefer. Using a brown marker, mark the head, thoracic segments, and wing sheets. The coloration of the Actinidae larvae is typically camouflaged to blend with the bottom of their aquatic habitats, usually in shades of brown or green or olive, which helps them avoid predators. To achieve the large compound eyes, I apply a dollop or two of black UV resin to each eye. Cure. Cut the wing sheets into a spade shape using your sharpest scissors. For added durability, I use an ultra-thin UV flex resin from Solarez and apply it along the dorsal side of the head, thorax, and wing sheets. Cure. Use the same resin and apply it to the abdomen. This also adds sheen to the fly. Cure. The final step is creating the realistic looking legs. Heat a pair of tweezers and bend the legs to create the femur, tibia, and tarsus on each leg. This is a very distinguishable feature on the larva. Again, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.